Okay.
All right. So, okay. To start off today's session, I would like to welcome Ranjit, who is the Vice President of ICF Malaysia, to say a few words.
So, good evening, everyone.
Maybe I'll stop share and then.
Good evening, everyone. With this stop sharing and spotlighting and all that, now I'm a bit pening already. So there goes my few words there. You know, in the last 2-3 weeks, I've been writing consistently on my LinkedIn, and I've been studying a lot about animals. And this morning, I wrote something about wolves, and something very interesting I learned about wolves. Wolves' hunting habits, they are not the best predators around. The hunting success is 15 to 20%. But you know what? Something about wolves, they don't complain. They relearn, re-strategize, and attack again. So I believe all of us here today in this webinar, we are all here eagerly wanting to learn from Merci so that we can use that in our business. We can use that in whatever we do, you know, in helping people. Because only way for a coach or for anyone to move forward is when they learn, relearn, learn, relearn. Then we become more effective in the marketplace. You know, we can't just rely on old technology. I was just in a meeting earlier with the Financial Planners Association Malaysia, and we're also talking about learning, relearning, learning, relearning. So, and also before I forget, let me just say, in our group today, we have our immediate past president, Jeff, who is also playing the role of a Zoom master. Our events director, Patricia, she has to be there, and she's always helpful. I thought I saw Ken. I thought, yes, I saw Ken earlier. And we also have part of the ICLS team here, like Karen. Karen is here, Barry is here. Viviana, membership director, is also here. So all these are the teams for the management committee. And it's just a reminder, please remember to register for the AGM, which is happening this Saturday. If you have not done it, please do it tonight. And so I hope that in this session, we're able to take something home, and that your client will get something new from you tomorrow. So without further ado, I'd like to pass this time back to Sook Leng.
Thank you, Ranjana. Yes, I like that ICF is very active. ICF Malaysia is so very active, organizing monthly webinars. And I don't get to attend all of it. But I do appreciate that it's done very consistently. Whether members can make it or cannot make it is done, and that there are members who actually find value in this. So let me share my slides again. All right. And this time, just so that something is wrong with my... Can you see my slides?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. So, so today's session is conducted by Merci Miglino.
Yes.
And she's MCC. And she's going to bring to us 7 steps to mastering the 30-minute coaching session. And we would have about 45 minutes to an hour of session. Then we have a Q&A, and we should aim to wrap up the whole session by 9:45. Okay. All right. So before we begin, the usual housekeeping checks. Turn off any distractions if possible. Find a quiet place. Check your internet connection, your audio, use of earphones. Mute your mic unless you would like to speak during Q&A sessions. Turn on your video if possible, Or if you are having a dinner now and it's not so convenient, you can turn it off. And once you are done, you can turn on your videos again. Use the chat box for questions. And this session is being recorded. And the recording link will be available on the ICF Malaysia website 7 days after the webinar. You can also access past webinar recordings in the members portal. Just log into your members account and go into the tab called My Knowledge. If at all you have any issues, you can contact events@icfmalaysia.org. Now, for those of you who are require a CCE certificate, this webinar is 1.5 units of core competencies. You need to attend the entire live session. There is no partial attendance. CCE will not be awarded. And the attendance is verified via the Zoom system. Certificate will be issued in ICF Malaysia website after 7 days at the conclusion of the session. So let me introduce to you our speaker for today. Merci has run successful coaching practice for the past 20 years, and she has done partnerships with many organizations, including Blanchard Coaching, Clearing Beliefs, and also several employee assistance programs. She's an MCC, and she hosts weekly mentor coaching groups, and she recently launched her ICF Credential Prep Course. Educated as a teacher, she has worked very broad-based career as a journalist, paralegal, communications director. She has even been in the New York State Legislature, serving as Director of Communications. She has also written a book titled From Doormat to Diva, Taking Center Stage in Your Life. She's a very humorous speaker. She's great insights to share and very inspirational in these short conversation that I've had with her. And Merci currently lives in New York with a husband whom she calls Bob. And at this time, I'm curious. I was reading through Mercy's bio, and Merci, I would like to ask, I'm curious as to what made you switch from politics to coaching.
Yeah, it's a bit of a leap, isn't it? Well, the thing that's the same is most of you, if not all of you, came into coaching with a passion to help people, to potentialize in people, and hopefully cause a ripple effect in the world where you coach and that person grows and then they, influence and inspire those around them. That's what I thought politics was, but it was for a while. And I always say I loved the job until I didn't. And it's very, toxic place most of the time. There's not a whole lot of workplace wellness emphasis there, at least not when I was there. So I'm your typical burnout case. I worked very, very hard, long hours. I thought I had it all. I thought I had the office with the windows. I had two parking spaces, which in a city is a big deal. But I also had migraines, acid reflux, and pretty much chronic fatigue. So like many of the people I coach, and maybe your story is a little bit similar, I had to, leave. Even though in the US, when you leave a job like that, your biggest concern is often health benefits, health insurance. So what I decided was they weren't going to write on my tombstone, she died for the health benefits, because that's where I was heading. It was just killing me. So what did I do? I hired a coach. Good for me. Coaching wasn't even that known 20 years ago or so, but I did my research and I was very surprised to see that this was something. I mean, I really liked the idea of it, that it wasn't therapy and it wasn't consulting. So of course I hired a coach, and she and I worked together for almost a year. And this may be your story too. I said, this is what I want to do. This is perfect for me. You know, I've been motivating people since I'm 8 years old. I'm one of 9 children, the oldest girl. So I've been doing this for a very long time, but I didn't know you could make a profession out of it. So thanks to this coach, I really had a wonderful experience. So now I think I'm trying to change the world, or my mission is to change the world one person at a time through coaching. And to me, I do a lot of workplace coaching, executive coaching. And this is where we spend a lot of our time. And if we can really change the culture in a workplace to be more wellness, more people, more humane, I think that we have, you know, done our work. You know, that's my legacy. I've done my work. If I can make an individual influence their organization or their family, or just the world. So that's what I made the leap to.
Wow.
Thank
Thank you for sharing. It's a very personal story, and yeah, I can resonate with that. I also, my personal story quickly, I also became a coach, decided to become a coach after I was coached.
Yeah.
Very small similarity there. So anyway, I'm really excited and really inspired to hear what you have to share with us today, how you incorporate your real life experiences into coaching. So the floor is yours, Merci.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen now. All right, let's see, let me get everything out of the way so we can see it, or I can see it, is more importantly. All right, so let's start from the beginning. First thing I want to say is I want to acknowledge Reginald for his emphasis on keeping an open mind. I think the more you do something, the more you get set in your ways. You know, that's not unusual as far as I'm concerned. It becomes habit. But then you feel like you want to learn something else. And even just saying out loud that a 30-minute session can be as impactful as an hour. There are people who are disbelieving of it, maybe think it's not possible, or maybe even argue, you know, against it, if that's a pretty strong thing. But what I'm inviting you today is to step out of any well-worn patterns, to, you know, learn something new, or at least you know, what I'm saying is this isn't the only way to coach. Certainly it is not, but it's one way to bring more impact to any session. I mean, I work for several coaching firms, and they, you know, they have an hour coaching construct. So I do it too, of course. However, I think that some of these skills here made the difference for me when I went for my MCC. I had to unlearn some things that were okay at the ACC level, you know, ICF Credential. And it was hard because I had to let go of certain things. I'll give you an example. I learned not to use the why question. You know, so why is this important to you? And I used to believe that there's no difference between why and what. However, I don't feel that way any longer. After seeing it in practice and learning more about it, I found that it really changes the intent of the question and provokes a different response from the client. One that is more open, less judgmental, more considered. So I want to, of course, acknowledge all the people in my life, including all of you today who've given me this wonderful opportunity, to Marion Franklin, Lion Goodman, Sherry Boone, the International Coach Academy, where I trained and became a trainer, and Judith Gardner, who's sort of my spiritual advisor. I didn't come up with these things on my own. They are a culmination and a synthesization of things that I've learned. I put my Merci Miglino spin on them, and that's the fun part for me. And I hope you find it fun too. So let's get started. Now, feel free to jump in, throw it in the chat box. If I'm not seeing the chat box, somebody will, and they'll bring it forward. I will pause every once in a while in the slides to get your questions, your sense of things, your feedback, and maybe do a little demonstration as well, so that you can get some really applicable skills, as Regina said. So longer is not better, all right? It's not always better. I think that's a myth in coaching. I certainly felt that way when I started, probably because it's such an intangible, offering. There's not sort of a product one can hold. So I think we can fall into the perspective that, I need to really show up to earn this money. And that the way I do that is paying attention for 1 hour. Honestly, if you're really listening, really listening at a deep level, you've cleared your mind of all expectation, any desire to fix the solution or move to the solution, any worrying about what the right question is. If you let go of that, if you can do that for 30 to 40 minutes, then you are clearly a master coach. This is what people spend years, a lifetime trying to learn. It's meditative, it's mindfulness. So, me doing it for an hour, I can't sustain it for an hour. I'm very aware of it when I'm moving into those directions, and I bring myself back. But for the first 30 minutes, I am more than willing and at ease to just let everything go and just be with the client. I think that's, the joy of that. All right, so belt one out. This presentation coach that I hired many years ago told me this was a great exercise to get rid of nervousness, anxiety, any self-consciousness about, coaching, because it's just you. There are very, very few professions where you're not hanging under a role that has a job description. You're out front, you are a partner, you are a full partner in this effort. So it does lighten you up. And I do this when I'm like getting a new client, or like I just took on an engagement that's going to be new for me, and I'm really happy about that. But it's going to take a little letting go of performance, all right? Okay, so let's see. Lighten up. So if you're like, for me, I would say, I don't know, what do I sing? Okay, I know what I sing. And I'm going to come off sharing for a minute. You all have your favorite songs, I'm sure. There was some lively music when I came on today. So one of my things, now you've got to remember, no one sees this, all right? So I'm not embarrassed, but I'm going to do it in front of you, because that goes to my second point. I usually say, everything's coming up roses for you and for me. I can't sing, but again, you did a good job of not like, but I like that song. It makes me use my body, and you cannot sing and be anxious at the same time. It's very hard. The brain, neuroscience tells us the brain doesn't like that. So this is a way of letting go of significance, of performance. Get it out of the way. And you notice when you move, your body and your mood are connected. You can change your mood by changing your stance or your posture, right? We know that from neuroscience too. All right, back to the share. Let me figure out how to do that again. Oh, there we are. All righty. So that's my first hint here, my first tip. My second one is to rock your body. All right. So what is that? Move your body, shake it around, dance like no one is watching, and do it until you feel so light and silly that you laugh out loud. So what I have move my light here for a minute. What I have purchased in order to encourage myself to do this is the 40-second dance party. So what happens is, and you can go off camera if you want, but I do this to lighten myself up. I hit the dance party.
30-second dance party.
All right. Now, the biggest learning to take away from this is not silliness. The biggest learning here is that you cannot go wrong in coaching. You have to be willing to take risks. You have to, get out of your comfort zone. Thomas Leonard, considered the father of ICF and a very influential coach. I trained with him a bit. One of the things he said is, you have to learn to be comfortable with discomfort, both yours and the client's, and get rid of this idea that there's only one right question. So you have to be willing to be wrong. You have to be willing to say, your client to say, well, that's not really it. It's more like this. But you see, the conversation moves forward. Client has given you something. So there's no, I don't know about you, but there's very few professions where you don't have to be right. And I, for one, think this is lovely. I have to be paying attention. I have to be in tune. I have to listen. I have to have no agenda. I have to let go of judgment, but I don't have to be right. So I think we need to learn to be foolish and be okay with being foolish. It's like these days at my age, I kind of trip a lot. Sometimes I own my own feet. And if I don't laugh at myself, even in front of other people, I can make that very significant. Oh my God, I'm aging, what's going on? And next thing you know, I'm in a bad mood. So learn to lighten up, learn to be willing to be wrong, all right? And to really see that this is such an amazing, yes, be vulnerable, Timothy, absolutely. It's an amazing experience to be real with someone. And this is part of our job. How amazing is that? So back to the slides, and then I'm going to do the third one, and I'm going to pause after that, and we'll get some feedback. All right, commit to listening. We know this as coaches. Listening is everything. How you listen becomes more and more significant. And to get to that 30-minute session, you have to listen to what is making this a problem for this client. You don't say that to them. And the problem isn't the story or the situation. The problem is the perspective, the idea, the belief that's getting in the way of what they want. All right, that's what we're listening for. And that takes a keen, deliberate posture, I would say. So as this client is talking about, well, my boss doesn't like me because, he never gives me any new projects and I feel ignored. And that's the story. All right. The next question isn't something about, well, what's your relationship with, and why do you think that is? No, that's nothing. What I hear is someone who has interpreted a situation in one way. And I want to invite them to consider what else could be possible, right? And they may say things like, well, maybe my boss is kind of just this way, or maybe I'm apprehensive, so then he backs away. I don't know. There's lots of reasons it could be that, other than it's me, other than the boss doesn't like me. So listening with those key things in mind, like, okay, what is the perspective here? And you know what? Your client will tell you in the first 3 minutes of what they say, what perspective they're stuck in, even when they don't know, right? Because they're assuming, or they've interpreted this in a set way. And we know that calm and peace and serenity comes from understanding that there's more than one way to interpret a situation. You can't always change the situation, right? So what is making this a problem for this client? So I'm going to pause here and see feedback, questions. You can sort of, I'm looking now. Yes, deep listening, level 4, absolutely true. All right, any questions, feedback on what we've discussed so far? You can raise your hand too. I guess you can do that on the grid there. Anyone? All right. Looks like I'll keep going then. All right, and you guys just budge in when you want. Just unmute yourself and say, I have a question or I want to say something, and I'm very agile because I'm a coach. I can pivot. All right, so let's move into the next one. Oh, did we miss 4? No, here we go. So deep listening. And the other thing I want to say about that is, in some coaches call these themes, you know, these common perspectives that a client gets stuck in. Some people call them mental mistakes or mindsets. And if you know anything about CBT therapy, cognitive behavioral, there are a number of common mental mistakes that people make. And generally they are unhelpful perspectives. So it's all or nothing. Either I quit my job or I start my side hustle as a baker. How about what's down the middle? You know, either or, black and white, all or nothing, always and never are key phrases that are mental mistakes generally. They're assumptions, or there's things we've come to believe, but we have not examined the truth behind them. So these themes, Marian Franklin, in her book, The Heart of Laser Focused Coaching, she calls them themes, and I highly recommend that book for that alone. All right. So themes help us go to that deep level of listening. We're not diagnosing, we're not assuming we're correct, but if I hear something like that, I bring it forward. I invite the client, I ask. It sounds as if you have 2 ways to go. I'm wondering what else is possible. I just put it out there. I don't say, well, it sounds like you're in an either or perspective. I rarely say that, but that's something to think about, you know, themes. All right, number 5 here. If you see something, say something. I think, again, this takes confidence and experience, but anyone, any even new coach can learn to do this. It means letting go of your self-conscious, being wrong. Even if you're worried that your question might be leading, take a risk. And then what I've noticed is I can say anything if I soften the delivery, but not the message. All right. So I once was coaching a VP for a huge tech company. And he came on the call, and he's like me, he's from New York, he's pretty direct, says it like, straightforwardly. And he was talking about how he's only been in the job 8 months, and they keep giving me more and more work. And I feel like I can't prove myself in any area because I'm so spread so thin, and they should know better. They should, my boss should know that this isn't, good for me. And he was sort of like, blaming other people. And yet what I heard was another theme was he had a difficulty saying no. And of course, that led to self-esteem, which in my mind, what has you having a difficult time of refusing these requests? He talked a lot, quite a bit. And finally, I just said, it sounds like someone who has no control over the things around them, sort of like a victim. What do you think? Now, I did a couple of things there. Is it a strong word, victim? Is it provocative? Yes. Yes, it is. I believe coaching can be provocative. Two things I did. I softened the delivery. I said, sounds like someone who. I didn't say you. I said, sounds like someone. You see how that distances a little bit from the person, kind of makes it a little more comfortable not to take it personally. And I, softened that delivery and then used a provocative word. So if you want to know what the reaction was, well, he stopped in his tracks. All right. And again, I don't know if I would have used that with anyone who wasn't a straight shooter. It's like culturally, you have to be sensitive, of course. And he didn't really react to that. He started going on again about everything. But by the end of the session, when I asked, what did you learn about yourself today that you could take forward into the situation? And he said, well, I'm not a victim. So he heard me, he just didn't react right away. Now, there's lots of ways to do this. And also what I strongly encourage here is like metaphor, right? We all know metaphors are just amazing in coaching. So you might say something like, things like, well, it sounds like, you've got your foot on the gas and the brake at the same time. What do you think? You can use common expressions, ever heard that expression of the cat calling the kettle black? What comes up when I say that? It really, the beauty of metaphor, and I could do a whole hour on metaphor, is that it bypasses the logical mind. It's visual usually, and most of us are visual. And it, again, helps the client receive it. Because listening is great, but communication is two ways. So you want to have them have the best advantage of hearing what you're saying and reflecting back to them. All right. The holy coaching agreement, and I do call it holy. This is another thing. When I went to coach training, we didn't really focus a lot on the agreement. This is back before there were markers. I am dating myself. But so I didn't believe that it was so necessary. You can do a great coaching session without being specific. Oh, somebody. All right, hold on. Is someone trying to say something?
Yeah, but Merci, you're not sharing your slides.
Yeah,
I'm not sharing my slide?
yeah.
Oh, what happened there? All right, hold on. Thank you for, all right. There we go. Are we good now? Can you see it?
Yes, we are good.
Okay, great. Any questions while we paused here? I see some chat.
Hi, Mercy. Can I ask you something?
Yeah, of course.
Nancy here. Earlier on, you mentioned that we shouldn't use the why question. So what happens if I accidentally use why and then after that it goes into another direction? Like how do you kind of pull that back?
Okay. Well, this is how we have to be agile, because I could ask somebody, so what makes this decision so challenging, right? Now, if I said, why is this decision so challenging? And the person goes into probably what they already know, or maybe what they already said. All right, so you may listen and find a little, kernel, a little pearl in that, but you can, this is the joy of it. You're not sculpting marble. If something breaks, it's like a sculptor will often say, like, how did you find that horse head in that block of marble? And they'll say, well, I chipped away everything that wasn't the horse. Sort of coaching is like that. So if I do that, and sometimes I might even think I'm leading. All right. So then I just double back. Oh, I'm aware. Okay. So what did I just learn, even though I didn't ask the question the way I wanted to, and then follow up. So let's say they say, well, why, what we know about why. It tends to provoke defensiveness. There's a bit of a judgment in why. Also, why kind of goes back to story. You know, what I call the he said, she said, you know, the story, the event, the problem. What kind of gets to the person. Remember, we're coaching a person, not a problem. So I think you can always pivot, be agile. There are times where I'll say, well, so why? No, let me rephrase it. What? We live in the house of language. That's what coaches do. It's a house of language, but the house is not made of brick or cement. It's like a tent that can go with the wind, you know? We can backtrack. We can say, well, wait a minute, because language is very important. And we understand that. However, language is not still or stifled. We will at times have to say, oh, wait a minute. I've even said, you know, a question, I'm like, let me phrase that a little better. And I'll rephrase it. It's confidence, but I know that I'm doing it in service to my client, not because I want to show up as, you know, miracle mercy. I want to help my client. Good question. All right, thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, Mercy, we have another question
Go ahead.
from Leng. How can I learn to use metaphors more often? Are there books or any other resources that may be helpful?
Yes, I will forward at the end of this some sites that I recommend for that. But that's a really good point, because not everyone is visual, and people who use metaphors tend to be more visual. And the other thing is, I've been writing since I'm a young person. I've written professionally, you know, I've studied writing in school and university. So I was taught almost formally how useful they can be. And what I also do is, if I'm reading fiction, you know, a beach read, you know, where it's like love, romance, and a problem, you know, there's a good writer always uses metaphors, and I write them down. If you watch a film, there's almost no entertainment, from stand-up comedy to a documentary, that doesn't use metaphor or simile, which is like, and it's like this, or as if this. So get yourself a book and start writing them down. I once heard this one and it stuck with me forever. You have a client and they're telling you that their partner in their relationship just won't, you know, take care of the house. They're not doing their role. They expect me to cook. They expect me to do everything. They're not pitching in. I work full-time, they work full-time, but they have a more flexible schedule. And I've tried everything. I'm nagging, I'm yelling, I'm, you know, getting angry, withholding intimacy, whatever. So a coach can say, right, you know, it sounds like you're going to the hardware store for milk. What do you think about that? And my other favorite one is, sounds like you're trying to get orange juice out of an apple. What do you think? Because people do this, don't they? They live in this illusion. First of all, whenever someone's trying to change somebody, good luck with that. That's what that metaphor means. I'm trying to change someone. And I'm so frustrated because it's not working that I escalate my strategy, which is not working. Those are very powerful. You know, again, people tend to have to think about them. Bypasses the logical mind. That's the beauty of it. It kind of goes into the heart, the feeling state. And remember, people shift in the feeling state, not the analytical state, feeling state. It's not like an expressive emotion, but it's deep, you know? So I think tracking them, you know, the best one is if your client uses a metaphor, don't lose the opportunity to grab it. So the client comes to the call, you know, my life's like a runaway train. I can't seem to get it, you know, to stop, and everything is so overwhelming. And okay, so what has you not hitting the brakes on the runaway train? Right? They use the metaphor, so you know they resonate with it. In MCC level coaching, and I'm sure there's some people here who have this credential, they expect you to use, if you don't use a client's metaphor, you kind of missed an opportunity for your coaching to go deeper. And can you see how these are starting to add up to less talking by the coach, more impactful observations and questions? So honestly, in a 30-minute session, by 7 to 10 minutes, you have a solid agreement. You don't have just the topic. You have what that person really wants. You've probed, you've explored. It's not the second thing you say. You know, if someone comes and says, my life's in, okay, so what has your life, you know, off track? Well, you know, I'm committed to this, that, and the other. So what has you so committed? What's that about? Well, I don't want to say no. I don't want to upset people. You know, I think of myself as a caring person, compassionate person. So I really want to do that. Okay. I do use the Dr. Phil question every once in a while, you know, so how's that working for you? All right. Because I don't believe people sabotage themselves. I don't even like that word. I think people employ faulty strategies. You know, they worked at one time. Maybe they worked when you were 7 years old. Like, be quiet and sit down. Don't get in any trouble. If I drag that into my adult life, I wouldn't be here talking to you. And I was told to sit down and be quiet. So this is, you know, the pattern you're seeing it develop. Listening deeply, as I think it was Timothy said, at that deepest level. First, get rid of all the clutter, dancing, cha-cha-cha, whatever. Get rid of all of that and be prepared to be a channel. You are an open channel. Then listen. The topic is not the agreement. It's not the agenda. It's just the way people tend to unpack things. Explore, investigate, notice the perspective that's getting in the way. When you do all of that first, the agreement, first of all, will happen very organically. You know, what about this is important to you? You know, so at the end of the day, what do you really want? How can the coaching support you here? And how will you know it's helped you? Right? Those are all those agreement questions. But by about 15 minutes in, you are at the awareness stage. They have had new awarenesses even before they set the agreement. You've done the hard work. They've done the hard work. And this is, I love this. It's like a hill, right? And then you get to this tip. And over here is the client can't go back to what was happening because the cat is out of the bag. They've told someone, they've shared with you how they're experiencing it and what the discomfort, the disharmony or the pain is about it. So they can't go backwards, but they just seem to can't go forward. That's called the leverage point. That's when the coach can ask a question, you know, acknowledge the awareness so far, and then say something like this. What is it costing you not to go in to your boss and communicate this to him? And the client will say, oh, I can't sleep at night, blah, blah, blah. And then you ask, what else is it costing you to not go in and speak to your boss? That question recognizes the science that says people move away from pain more than they move toward pleasure. So a lot of times as a coach, you sort of want to paint that picture. So what would it feel like if you were down, 4 pant sizes and you got to, run in the next race? That isn't as motivating as, so what's it going to feel like if you decide not to do this race? What is it costing you? You can see we are motivated more by pain, right? So what the coach has to do is poke the pain. Don't sweep it under the carpet. Don't think you have to be positive all the time. You have to be positively there, but you don't have to be positive because it just doesn't work. Yeah. So then once you get to the what is it costing you, usually that's when the client starts to say, I really want to do this. So, and they start coming out with actions. You didn't even have to ask the question yet. They start, well, yeah, I guess I could, maybe I'll write a little bullet points for that meeting with my boss. That will help me. All right, now you're, all right. And in MCC, right about there, you want to check in on the agreement. So that sounds like an idea that you want to go forward with. So where are we with what you wanted to achieve today in our session? And it's better to put exactly what they said they wanted to achieve. And when I said, what is it costing you? And then asking it again, because the first question is typically something they've thought about. But when you ask it again, what else? That usually you'll see a client has to pause because they haven't thought beyond that yet. And honestly, we get to the richness of what's really happening for this person when we do that. So it's 20 minutes and you're coming down the home stretch. You've got those growth development questions happening. So, when are you going to start? Who or what might support you? What have you learned about yourself today? And how can you apply this in other areas of your life? Blah, blah, blah. And you're done, 30 minutes. I see Sook. Yeah, I don't know about that. All right, so let me.
Question, Merci?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think there will be many coaches who resonate with this. What if you have a particularly talkative or long-winded client who goes on and on and on and on, and back and forward and yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great question. How do you say your first name?
Rohaizen.
Rohansen?
Rohaizen, yeah.
Rohaizen. Okay, Rohaizen. The first thing you want to do, if they're going on and on and on, it is your responsibility, as you know, to manage the time for the session. And if they're repeating themselves or giving you what I call all the evidence, like they're in a trial and they're giving you the evidence as to why their current perspective is the way it is. So they'll say, exhibit A, my boss said this, exhibit B, and then this happened. Okay. And all they're doing is digging themselves into their current perspective. And we don't want to have that, happen. So one of the things that I've learned, and it really works, if you need to interrupt your client, and you will at times need to do that, use their first name. So I'm going to try Rohansen. So she's talking and I go like this, Rohansen. As or she will stop. I might have to say it again. Then here's where you have to come clean. You have to be honest. You can't withhold things from your client. So you have to say, listen, not listen. Okay, so is it okay if I pause us here for a minute? I like to ask that. Okay, so what I'm hearing is, and summarize what you're hearing so far. Then your next question can be a part of an agreement because that's structure. So what would you like to, put as an outcome today? All right, or what is important to you about whatever that, they've already said they wanted. You can ask a question or you can share an observation. So it sounds like somebody who's trying to swim from England to France, but is swimming in circles. What do you think? Okay, a metaphor cuts through all of it. Take some boldness, but I know, every one of you has boldness or you wouldn't be a coach. So interrupting like that. The second thing is, if someone's going in circles, if they're going in circles, they're digging themselves in with more evidence about their perspective. That's a clue to the coach to interrupt pleasantly, use their first name. Is it okay if we take a pause here? So what I'm hearing is, and then move the conversation forward. That's our job. So ask a question. So what would make the most usefulness of our time today? Or most best use of that, whatever, whatever that question is. I once said to somebody, it was early on in my coaching days, and I was taking a risk, and I said to them, I interrupted them. And I said, it sounds like every time you get close to like this nugget of truth for you, you move away from it. What do you think? I love the what do you think? What's that about? How does that land on you? Because you can say something, and yet at asking that, it's partnership. It's back to that client. They get to do with it whatever they want to do with it. But if you see something, you've got to say something. And finally, I'll add this point to this section. If you find yourself leading or caught in yes or no questions, closed-ended questions, it's because you're seeing something, but you haven't brought it forward as an observation. So now you're trying subtly to get the client to see what you're seeing, rather than simply say, I have an observation. Can I share it with you? Or I'm noticing something. That way you stay out of leading and those closed-ended questions. So to me, if I'm in that pattern, oh yeah, right. I see something, I need to say it, right? When I was training, and I know there that some of my alumni here, when I was training, we had a module in coach training called withholding. I don't even think International Coach Academy has it anymore, but it was just about this, withholding what you're seeing from a client. Okay. Anything else before I move to the next slide? Okay.
Merci, sorry, Patricia here. I just want to
Hi, Patricia.
ask, what do you mean by withholding?
Oh, by withholding?
Mm.
Okay, so we as coaches don't withhold our observations from our clients. It's actually it's the gold of what you offer. Everything else is silver and bronze or copper, but the gold is your observations, your third party, non-judgmental objective. So if you see something, you don't want to withhold it. That's what I mean, like hold it back. Make sense, Patricia?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. All right, I'm going to go back to sharing my slides. And I think we're number 6. As I said, with the agreement, don't get.
Mercy, someone requested for slide number 5.
How to go
Yeah.
backwards? Okay, let me see. Share, go backwards. All right. So observations really require direct communication. That's a competency. It's now, as part of evoking awareness. But direct communication is sharing an observation. All right. So what you're listening for there is a contradiction, a discrepancy, that the client said one thing and now they're saying another. And we want to notice those things. often, oh my gosh, a client will come, this one client did this, and I've worked with this gentleman for a long time. He comes one day and says that he has the opportunity to have a partner in his business that he started some 5 years ago. And he's a little worried because the person seems to be too hands-on and maybe, can't dedicate some focused energy towards the projects. So he had concern. The funny part of it is, this client was the same way. Now, how could I let that go? So I said, you know what I'm noticing? You interested in that? He said, sure. It sounds a lot like you when we started coaching together. What do you think? And he burst out laughing, because of course it was. Now he could say, no, this is different. It's not the same. Okay, I've still moved it forward. Now I'm learning more about how this client sees the situation. I don't have to get him to see what I'm seeing. It's an offering, they can do what they want. Okay, back to sharing, back to slides. All right, here we go. All right, just to reiterate, the topic is not the agenda. That has to be contracted and recontracted if it changes. And I think that's pretty basic. The stronger, more specific the agreement is, then the quicker the coaching will go. It's just like natural. If a client says, well, I'd really like to have some clarity. Okay, so what would clarity mean for you? Or what's important about having clarity? Because a lot of times they come with these nebulous goals. So what would you have at the end of our session if this was clear for you? All right. It's the same with what is important. What about this is important to you? The client might say, well, my doctor said I better get my numbers down because they're, I'm not managing them well. All right. That doesn't give me motivation and inspiration. So I might say, so what is it important to you about getting your numbers down? Well, I want to be healthy and I want to be fit. Okay. And what's important to you about being healthy and fit? Well, I have a family. I want to be there for them. It's important for me that I take care of myself because I want to take care of them. You see the difference? One is a true inspirer. The others are maybe just motivation. So I want to inspire people. I think people who are inspired don't need to be motivated. It's organic. And what inspires us is getting to that core of who we are, our purpose. This person's purpose is to take care of their family. All right, there we go again. All right, so here's a fictional client. Why is this weird? Like, let me see if I can move it down. So Jason tells you he's your client. He's got a new job after a few months of trying, and he's so excited about the work. He also says he's putting a lot of pressure on himself to keep up with those who have worked for the company for several years. All right, and he fears that he will not succeed if others think he is failing. So what thought, idea, or perspective is limiting or blocking the client? So what is making this a problem for this client? And I'm going to, stop. Well, I'm going to leave it up for a minute. And then I'm going to invite you to think about it and to share. Okay. All right. So what do you think is the idea or perspective or thought that's making this a challenge for them? What doesn't add up? Or just think about what would your first question be? And you can put it in the chat if you like. Yes, Karen, exactly. That's a good one. Comparing yourself to others who've been there much longer. That's a misconception. Okay, so he is blocked by the thought that others might think he is failing. Okay, so now we have also an expectation is a theme in coaching, expecting something, high expectations that really is not that realistic, or the person hasn't grounded it. To make the assessment that I should be further along than I am, what are you grounding that on? What has you saying that? That's a good question. Because we often, fail or get frustrated because we have an expectation that we haven't truly examined. We've just assumed. And I'm not good enough. Self-esteem is at the root of all coaching themes. Yeah. All right. Good job. All right. So let's go to the next thing. All right. And you've already said expectations. I'm not good enough. There's a should here, isn't there? Whenever you hear should, spoken or not spoken, that's interesting to me. Right? And I'm going to answer that self-esteem versus self-worth in a minute, like a little further down. So we have common themes here. Comparing ourselves to others, expectations, ungrounded expectations, comparing myself to others. There's a should here. I should be further along than I am. And a fear, which we know is false evidence appearing real. That's FEAR. Fears say not that this could happen, it will happen. It's not logical, but that's how we fear of failure. Exactly. That's how we think sometimes. All right. And so we get a sense of what makes this situation a problem. It's not about the situation. It's not about, asking him about, what else can you do to keep up? That's strategy. That's strategy. And strategy comes once the client has a shift in perspective. And usually the client starts to come up with their own strategy, with their way forward, the action plan. And again, this is, you're listening for, why is this a problem for this person? Why are they telling me the things they're telling me? Because every word a client uses has significance, even those asides. Like, somebody comes and says, I really want to retire. I have this idea of like moving somewhere warm, and my husband doesn't really like anything warm, but I'm looking into Florida and whatever. Now, the fact that she spoke about her husband, don't step over that. That you may ask about it in the moment, or you may just put yourself on alert if it comes up again, because that's significant. Everything a client says, even if it's in jest or it's an aside, has meaning for them. I was coaching someone the other day, and she kept saying, because she was a stay-at-home mom, and now she was looking to get back in the workplace, but she kept using that stay-at-home mom as a barrier. And so I had to bring that forward, just ask her about that. All right, come down the home stretch. And like I said, I talked about the leverage point. You check in, and the remainder of the session, designing actions, it moves quite smoothly. all in 30 minutes. All right, let me, I think we've timed this pretty well. And let me stop sharing if I can find that screen. Okay. Yeah, here we go. Let's get rid of that. Okay. So questions, demonstrations, call for action. And you can put it in the chat too. I'm just interested in hearing from folks of just how this is landing on you.
Merci,
Yes.
for the case study just now, it seems like the perspective is really quite different. For example, like fear of failure, high expectation of self, comparing self with others. Like, do we have to get down to the root problem? Because these are all like very, very different perspective. And of course, yeah, how do you know whether it is a contributory of different factors or just one main factor?
Oh, so there can be several themes in it, and usually there are. You know, it depends. I mean, this is not the only way to coach, as I've said before. However, it will make your coaching more impactful. And there can be several themes. Sometimes you start just what I call is putting it in the data bank. This might be that. Let me, you know, let's see where else this goes. I might not go right for it because it isn't the first question. You know, it's not the first question. You know, the first question is exploring. So, you know, what does it mean to be balanced in your work and life? Because they said they want greater work-life balance. What would that look like? What about that's important to you? Those are the kinds of exploration questions. And then as they tell you that, you're going to learn more and more about their current perspective and why it might be getting in the way of what they want. So that's how I look at it. Is that making sense to you?
Yeah. I was just thinking like that. These are all like very broad theme, and whether, yeah, in the 30 minutes, do we have to nail it down like to one main
No, you
or
don't
theme?
have to, no, you're just listening for it. You're not like, you're not diagnosing it, if you know what I mean. You're just using it as clues. It sort of gives you a bit of a, I mean, if you've coached for a long time, you know there's only so many situations that the client comes with, right? It tends to be more and more, you know, this as you get accustomed to it. Understanding human behavior is what this is about, because we're not all that different in some ways anyway. And the thing about the 30-minute session is you're not watching the clock. Honestly, if you want to try this out, don't even watch the clock. Just use some of these things and see what happens. Treat it like an experiment. I think that, and in my mentor groups, that's been the biggest shift for people, is it just naturally happens if you do certain things. And everything I put down there is an ICF core competency. Even the singing and the dancing, it's about being present. It's about taking care of yourself as a coach and bringing your best objective self to it. So think like just even trying to, from the beginning, thinking about what that perspective might be.
Yeah. Thanks.
You're welcome. All right. Anything else? Who else has a question? I put in the chat. Self-esteem is what we think, feel, and believe about ourselves. Self-worth is a recognition that you are a valuable human being who is worthy of love. It's subtle difference. And for us, frankly, it's really the esteem. Because it's really like, think about all these themes. They come down to, how does a person view themselves as far as value? Just taking the people pleaser, I was just coaching someone who's, having a difficult time saying no, and they just keep giving him more to do. And I said, so what's in it for you to keep saying yes? And he said, well, and he was very aware. He said, I just want people to be okay and happy and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so what's important to you about that? And then there's the all or nothing. I can either be accepting of every request, or I'm selfish. What else might be true? Can one decline requests and not be selfish? And that's a question I'll say to them from time to time. Wait a minute, can one be this and that, or is it either or? Yeah. All right, I'm going back to the chat, see if there's anything there. Love to hear from anyone else. Yeah, I know what you mean, Ramon. Back to ICA, our training that keeps us connected. All right. Anything else? I'll share the slides. I'll have the slides go to you. Somebody asked about the closed captioning. It was a setting on Zoom, and I honestly just noticed it. Oh no, it was a setting on the PowerPoint. But I like it a lot, not only because there may be people here, likely, that English isn't their first language, but also I find that these days I read and watch at the same time. It could be that I'm aging and my hearing isn't what it used to be, but don't tell anybody that. All right. Anything else before I hand it back to the folks here? Oh, I did want to make it, let's see.
Merci, could you
Yes.
share step 7?
Okay, sure. No problem. Let's share our screen. Oh dear, where did it go? All right, I need to get the PowerPoint back. I don't know where it went. Here we go. Slide 7. Step 7. Step 6. Step 7. There we go. Share. And hopefully if I slideshow. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions around this?
Yes, I have a question, Merci.
Sure.
The shift is the leverage point. What is the indication of this leverage point?
Okay. So the indication of the leverage point, the client has opened up to a new way of thinking, which has led to some, maybe they're, sometimes it's just like this. I hadn't thought about it that way. Other times it can be, aha, yeah, right. It's the leverage point is when they have the awareness, and it's our responsibility to amplify the awareness, So it sounds like you found yourself a third way. What do you think? Or if they're saying, they had the awareness, but there's a but, but, okay, that's when you use the, what is it costing you not to go for that job or whatever, fill in the blank, and what else is it costing you? The person has, it's like between letting go of your old perspective and finding a way to embrace the new one. That's the leverage point, I would say. And the leverage point, let's see if I can find this real quick for you guys. Okay, here it is. So this comes from okay, here we go. All right. Let me put this in the chat. This comes from Marion Franklin's book. All right. I need help. A coach says, I need help keeping the client, in their belief, getting them to the point of the shift. What would be helpful today in our coaching practice, blah, blah, blah. So let me find the actual. All right. It's not it. Hold on. I'll find it. Okay. Gee, I cut and pasted the thing below it and not the right thing. Never mind. Here we go. The leverage point is the time in the conversation where the scales are balanced between their current situation, pain, discomfort, harmony, and their future, right? That fear that happens, that apprehension, that, what's the word? Ambivalence even. It's the faulty thinking that is keeping them from moving forward. So once as coaches, we know exactly what they believe is true, that isn't necessarily true. If I stop giving gifts, I'll feel guilty as an example. Really? What else could be true? Then we can help them shift their thinking and expand it to a new perspective. Does that help?
Yes, thank you. It's a tipping point between now and the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's usually some kind of fear, a desire for things to be predictable, which we know after living in a pandemic, we viscerally know that you can't predict the future. You can just do the best you can. All right.
Thanks.
So I think any other questions before I want to invite you to, and I'm going to put this in the chat. Let's spell my name right. Okay. So what I like to do is offer you an invitation to one of my mentor coaching groups, which is, this is, you've seen the framework of what we practice and what we do. The age of time probably is best for you guys is Thursday. It's 8 a.m. New York. Like today, it's 8 p.m. in Asia. If you're interested, I can send you the Zoom link, and you can come to any Thursday in the next month or so. I like to do this, and as I was saying just to the group before, it does two things. One, I tend to have a core set of people, and then bringing new people in from time to time, it livens things up. We learn more and more from each other, and it's more diverse, and it has that positive aspect. And the other reason is that it's just a way of getting my name out there, and because my mentor coaching is a little bit of supervision, a little bit of mentor coaching, and a little bit of training. And I found that when I went for my MCC, practice alone wasn't helping me. And so that's why I developed a course. It's absolutely aimed at getting you a successful recording. I mean, it's not, you've already have all the foundations, you already have the theory, you've had, coach training, but you want to, if you've ever prepped for a civil service exam or for accounting, you've taken a prep course that's very streamlined. So I recently launched that last year. So that's another thing that you cut down the road or whenever you might be interested in. But really, thank you so much for this. I really, appreciate it.
I'm Mrs. Patricia here. I raised my hand. What happened is after this event, this session, I'll be sending a post email to share the link and also your material. Would it be possible also that you share with me the information of your mentor coaching sessions or your group coaching sessions so that I can actually email to everyone and everyone is on the same page?
Okay, I send it to you, Patricia, and you can share it.
Yeah, and also earlier, whatever that you type on the chat, I don't think we see it in our chat. Whatever that you have, do you type anything in the chat? I notice that.
I see. I sent it to. All right.
Maybe we can share Mercy's profile slide just for that. There's a contact there.
All right. So that leverage point is now to everyone.
Thank you.
And we'll send the slides to you. You have the slides, so you can send them too.
Can I share this? And you have, Is that a contract?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
Info.
Anybody.
Any of these is good. And this is that's the website for the mentor coaching. It gives you all the information you might need, so you could send that along too.
So you can capture this, yeah.
All right. So
okay, so it's in the.
Okay, let me share my screen for a minute and then go to the PowerPoint. All right, so let's escape this. So I got to share again. All right, here we go. So I got the subtitles. Here's my PowerPoint. I'm on a Mac, but this is a Microsoft product. And you'll get something like subtitle settings, and then you can put where they are. I put them underneath the slide. You can change the language. It will translate it, which is very helpful sometimes. So it's on, when you go to the slideshow tab, right? That's where it is. Oh, I'm glad I could share that with you. I just learned it today.
Oh.
Okay. All right. And feel free to email me with any questions or you want some clarity around something on the slides. I'm happy to address it. Oh, and Danny's saying there's a closed caption feature on Zoom too. That's I don't know about that, so that's good. I'll have to look into that. Okay. Yes, I do group supervision. And I work almost all virtually these days. When we get back to traveling, ideally, if there was an ICF Malaysia, meeting in person, I'd travel and be there in person. That's, what I was doing for a while. I'd like to see the world. I'd like to meet people. But, with the pandemic, we're kind of, sort of zooming our way through things. So, yeah. All right. All right. So I'll hand it over to you, back to you guys. And thank you so very much for this opportunity. I'm at that age where, my legacy is my 32-year-old daughter and coaching. So I'm glad to absolutely be a part of your group today. Okay. Okay, so let's see. Somebody just wrote a big long thing here. Let's see. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with what is happening for the coach. That's what, that's coach supervision is about the coach. Coach mentoring, mentor coaching is about the competencies. So if I know that I struggle with wanting to please people and it's going to hold me back a little bit in my coaching, I need to work on that, and you're right. There's no prescription. It begins with awareness, right? It begins with, I know that I have a tendency to do this. Then release judgment about it. Acceptance. It's 3 A's: awareness and acceptance. Acceptance means, oh, I'm learning, I'm a coach, I need to figure out a better way to do this. And then action. I'm going to read about it. The other book that I've just finished is Marsha Reynolds, which you may have heard of for sure. She's written many, many books. Coach the person, not the problem. And her material and Marion's are very, very similar. They just have a different style and voice. So sometimes I read both of them and I get something, new out of it each time. But I think that's important. That's all about that competency about, growing as a coach. Thank you. Thank you. Starting my day off.
So Leng,
Hmm?
yeah, are you closing?
Yeah. Okay. So thank you everyone. Thank you, Merci, for your sharing. Very sharp 7 pointers for us for the 30-minute coaching sessions. Really appreciate that. And you give very practical examples, really real life coaching type of scenarios, applying 7 steps simultaneously into the coaching sessions. So thank you so much. And I think for now, I hand this over to you, Jeff.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
thank you, Merci.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Merci. Yeah.
All right. Take care.
Yeah. So, okay, we are going to take a photo, and after it's going to share about ICF event. You want to run the poll, Patricia?
So then can you run it? I can't run it on my
Okay.
side somehow.
I
So please help me with
will
that.
Okay, so I will launch the poll. There are 3 questions. Okay, I've launched it. Y'all get
Scroll. There are 3 questions. Please scroll down and to answer the questions.
Host or co-host do not touch anything. You will stop the poll. So host or co-host, just refrain from touching.
Are we done?
almost there. So we got 34 of 39.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you.
so shall I
Okay.
end the poll?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay, everyone, don't put anything on the chat at the moment. We're going to take photograph, everybody on their videos, and put on your best smile. And of course, first photo, I would like you to give a round of applause to Merci. Come on. Everybody, come on. I only have 1 frame. So I see Rita Shah, Tan Tan Lee, are you on? Henry Chang, Alagapan,
Thank you.
Kanita, Kian Lee, can you on your video? This is an opportunity for you on your video, and you can share your LinkedIn later on. I give you 30 seconds more. Rita, are you there? Kian Lee? Henry? Okay, so I think we got to go on. So let's give a round of applause. Continue to give the round of applause to Mercy. Thank you, Mercy. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay, don't go away because we have some exciting, events coming up that I'm going to share in a little while. Okay, let me share some of the exciting events that's coming up. Okay, upcoming events. First one is this Saturday, 24th July, 10 a.m. to 12. So if you haven't registered, please register. This is our 9th annual general meeting. So it's going to be the second virtual meeting that we're going to have for AGM. This is our second AGM virtual meeting. And the coaching growth series is starting again. Ethical maturity in the coaching profession, 14 August. Guess what? In August, we don't have 1, 2, but we have three sessions. Okay, 14 August is this. Put in your calendar. And then this is a Chinese event. Maybe Patricia can help me to explain. This is on the 21st of August. This is a complimentary event, okay? So Patricia,
this is an event by MCC, the first MCC from Taiwan. She will be talking about listening. That's all for me.
Okay, 21st of August. That's all I can read, okay? So MCC Live, again, August, yeah, 24th of August. So you have 3 events in August. Wednesday, same time, 8 p.m. And then we have September, October, November coming up. 3 MCCs, Dr. Claire Bankat, JD Daya, and Vijaya Lakshmi. So 3 MCCs. So we have events until November. And okay, ICF 2021 virtual. I think we have pushed it to November, correct, Regina?
Yep.
Yeah.
November 8th.
Yeah, we have a
Yes.
great team, and some of the people here, are organizing this. Karen is one of them. I think quite a few of them are already. Barry, yeah, I know. Yeah, so thank you for that. So you have a few great organizers here. So it's going to be a 10 impactful days, and this is a good event. Take note, it's going to be November. We will keep you posted. So, yeah, this is the date. Yeah, 8 to 18 November. Yeah.
Sorry, am I the one not seeing the screen or screen?
Everyone
Can
see
you-
the screen.
Yeah, you all
We
can
all
see the
see
screen,
this.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
so
we can
you-
see.
Yes, we can.
So, sorry about that. We will send you the slides, I guess. Yeah. So, okay, this one, ICF Malaysia wants to feature you. This is a new thing. Fill up the Google form. This is for ICF members only. So we are featuring the coach. And also for the growth series and the awareness event, we want some new ideas from ICF members. So just stay in touch with us. If you have any feedback, our event director, Patricia, she's organizing so many events. Let's give her a round of applause. Yeah, she is really doing so much, Yeah, so we have, the question is not the event, the question is whether you have time to attend the events. Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. Then I will stop sharing. All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you once again, Mercy. Hey, Mercy is gone. Okay.
Yeah, she needs to go.
Okay, and bye-bye. You want to stay back and have a chat? We are here.
Right. Thank you, everyone. Good to see you. Good
Yeah,
night.
thank you, Sook Leng.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks and bye.
Thank you, our guests. Thank you.
Thank you. Those from